Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. I am your host, Viz, and today we are joined by writer-director Chris Van Hoffmann, whose new movie, Devil's Workshop, premieres Friday, September 30th in theaters and video on demand. Chris, thank you for being our guest today. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be on here. I've known about this for a while, and I'm happy to finally be a guest.
Oh, it is our pleasure. And like I said just before we went live, I really enjoyed this film and I look forward to sort of breaking it down a little bit. So let's just get right to it. Devil's Workshop takes the career of a struggling actor contacting a demonologist for just your normal research sake. Um, how did you land on the idea of using an actor in their career to bring in the character of a demonologist?
Um, I, uh, I guess as far as like where the demonologist, I think the germ of it really came from. I was pitching an anthology TV show like back in 2017, and it was like kind of Twilight Zone meets Entourage, and it was kind of like Hollywood horror. And it never got off the ground, but we pitched it everywhere, and I had to like I was writing a bunch of different concepts, like log lines of like what about this concept, what about this concept, what about that concept, and and I don't know where the demonologist, I don't know. I was like thinking of like poltergeist, and I was just like thinking of like, well, I haven't really done much of a supernatural kind of concept. I was just kind of like throwing a bunch of spaghetti against the wall, and this was just one that a lot of people seem to always highlight in the
Uh huh.
list of concepts, and and over, people would always highlight this one because it was very makeable, it was very simple, and it was very kind of interesting, and so it was one of those things where like if it stays with you year after year, it must be a good thing to kind of pursue, and then and then the year of 2019 was kind of a weird year for me professionally. I had a movie that fell apart, which was kind of like a devastating process time, and I kind of had to sort of reinvent myself a little bit and write, kind of go back to my roots and write something. And I was like, all right, well, now's the time to I think write that script because I think like that's the one that I'm gonna be able to get made.
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly. And we're very glad that you did. Is there a little bit of social commentary about the entertainment industry with the actor, their career, the demonologist, and us finding out the demonologist also has sort of a background in entertainment as well?
yeah, I guess like yeah, like the themes of like I mean, every all the principal characters in the movie are all actors themselves, for better or for worse, and they've all had experience in that and that field. And I mean, I think yeah, I mean, like yeah, I think people could certainly poke dissect it and find social commentary for sure. Like, I mean, like a lot of my favorite films are Hollywood satires. I mean, like one of my favorite films is a David Cronenberg movie called Maps to the Stars,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of people don't really talk about, but it might be actually my favorite film of his because I just seen it more than any of his other films, and I just am weirdly obsessed with that movie. And that movie is like it's a Hollywood satire, but it's not like beating you over the head with it. It's not
No.
telling you it's a Hollywood satire. It's just kind of like it's just like you're eavesdropping on all these people, and it's just kind of hard not to
And that's
find
exactly what
satire.
what Devil's Workshop does. It gives the audience a little bit of a slight peek behind the curtain of what actors have to do for researching, whether it's for auditions or after they book the role for the part itself. Now, the dialogue between the two characters of Clayton and Eliza is very compelling. It's those two have some great conversations. What was it? Was there any message that you were trying to convey with that, very deep dialogue that happened throughout the film between those two characters?
Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know necessarily about a message, but I think kind of allowing giving them the space to kind of like slowly kind of come together and find like find that they're both kind of I think what she's trying to do throughout the film is trying to like put him at ease, sort of soften him up for the blow, for like alluding to the end of the film and kind of just allowing him to be relaxed
Mm-hmm.
throughout the film and slowly because when you have like a like a therapist, like how they try to relax their patient as much as possible to get them to open up to you. And I think that's kind of what she's sort of like a demon doctor. She's trying to extract these demons out of him, and by doing that, she has to get him to be relaxed and comfortable, and as if he's talking to his own mother. And so
And,
yeah, I mean,
and
like that was yeah.
yeah, you're right. I mean, thinking back on it, the conversations, especially when he does start to reveal about his relationship with his mom, it is a lot like a doctor-patient relationship. At
Yeah.
least that's what it evolves into. Now, do you think Clayton sees this moment in his career? He's like 30 something, as this is going to be my either make or break moment, and that's why he is so committed to doing what he does with Eliza.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, like struggling actors, I mean, when you're, because there was I mean, it was very important that the character of Clayton was in his 30s, and not just in his 30s, in his mid 30s, and
Mm-hmm.
not like in his 20s, because being a struggling actor in your 20s versus being a struggling actor in your 30s is a very different kind of emotion.
Yeah.
And when you're in your 30s, I mean, you were legit, you were officially struggling,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I think when he's at that age, and like I mean, Clayton's like not, obviously he's a little, maybe he's like not the most stable person, but just given his past, but yeah, I mean, like I think I think he's just at that point where he's like, you know what, this chick might be a lunatic, but I'm just gonna say, screw it, and I'm just gonna go out there and whatever happens, happens, and I'll spend the night here. I don't care. Like, I mean, because like what he literally has nothing else to lose. So I mean,
Exactly,
you know,
exactly. Let's talk a little bit about Emil Hirsch's character, Donald. Not a very likable
no,
character.
yeah.
Uh, what does Donald represent for you?
Oh, I mean, I certainly have a couple Donalds in my life for sure. Um,
Cocky, arrogant.
just well, I mean, he just like represents like the average like there's so many people, and unfortunately, that's why what goes to show like talent is such a small fraction of what makes people successful in Hollywood. Is that and Donald kind of represents that, of like the people that you know um, are so good at being political campaign workers on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, and just just knowing how to work the room and just and promote self like just shameless self promotion. But then when you actually watch their work,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like it's so mediocre, if
Yeah.
not terrible. So I mean, and he just represents. I just thought it was like really funny that like Emil Hirsch, who was arguably like one of my favorite actor. I mean, like he's been in so many of my favorite films. He was like a
Mm-hmm.
seminal actor for me in high school, and he's been in so many of my favorite films. And I just thought it was funny that like such a great talent that's worked with such great directors like him is like playing this like like kind of mediocre actor.
Exactly, exactly. One of my favorite scenes is a confrontation between Donald and I believe it was Nikki and Petra.
Yeah.
That scene where it gets really loud, confrontational, and then sort of the climax. Did those three understand what you were trying to accomplish with that scene, or did you have to really guide them into getting your vision for them to do exactly how you thought saw it?
Um, no, I think they all I think they all I mean, Sarah Coffey, who played the actress, the blonde actress that goes head to head with Emil, she was like, 1,000. She was because it was a big deal for her to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and she really she just 1,000% committed to it, and she really wanted to because she comes from she's like a TikTok star, so she is hilarious. If you watch her
Mm-hmm.
TikTok videos, she does a lot of like hilarious TikTok videos, but she's she's a real actress. And she hadn't really had much of an opportunity to like get that out because she just blew up on TikTok during the pandemic, and she's always been a real actress, and it was one of the first times that she was able to really expose that and going head to head with like a seasoned pro like Emil Hirsch was pretty exciting. And
What I loved
so
about the most about that scene is by the climax, she one up Donald. That's what I
yeah,
loved about it. She showed him, you
yes,
know?
definitely.
And I did not see that coming. Now, for this script in particular, did you have to do any kind of research into demonologists or any of that kind of stuff?
Um, yeah, I did. I mean, I did like, I mean, I didn't do like an extensive amount of research, but yeah, I mean, I did. I mean, it was more like kind of throughout 2020 when I was writing like the first draft at least, and then from that point on, I was kind of just I mean, there are a lot of things that were made up, like the Malum Extractum is a made up book, and Galvina, the Demon of Desires, like that's made up. I mean, none of
Yeah.
that stuff is based on truth and maybe inspired, uh, but yeah, I mean, I did a little research, but but like the themes of the movie, I just were
Commercial, that it really doesn't involve a lot of deep diving into it. I mean, it's really out there, just from ghost hunting shows and stuff like that. Uh,
yeah,
that
for
we can
sure.
extract all that information. So I totally get it. Now, Eliza really keeps the audience guessing throughout the whole film. What are her motivations? What are her intentions? Literally straight through to the end. And even in the ending, a lot of it is going to be left up to viewer interpretation. Without giving away any spoilers, was that your intent, or was the ending going to be your big reveal? This is what Eliza is, and there's no A, B, or C other option.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it probably. I mean, even like based on the script, I mean, it was always pretty. It was always pretty like clear that it was going to be like kind of there could be like multiple different ways to interpret like how it wraps itself up, and I think and also like part of that climax just kind of just want to make a just kind of make a sort of like whacked out climax just for the entertainment sake of it all.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, as far as like, I mean, I always thought that she was, I don't know. I look at the climax as like a happy ending. I think like they both come together,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both going to a better place. And I think Clayton's someone that probably has a tough time existing on Earth. And I feel like him and Eliza are better off together in I guess the afterlife or hell if you want to
I could
call it
see
that.
that. I could see
Yeah.
that. What kind of broke my heart was the scene before the credits, the actual audition, when he obviously doesn't show up, and the people auditioning sort of reveal that he had something special. And
Yeah.
it's sad because he went through his entire life not knowing that he actually did have talent, and he just needed that break. And and that was that was a great
Yeah.
way to end the film because it left the viewers
Yeah.
like, wow, damn, if this guy only knew. Now, one last question. We're almost out of time. There's a scene where the crucifixion is recreated. What was the important? Well, why was that scene so important to put into the story?
Well, originally he was going to be like lying on the floor, like strapped on the floor, and just for logistics sake, it just for the camera, it just made more sense for him just like standing up and more like a crucifix. And I mean, yeah, those are that's just like one of like many like fun kind of Easter eggs put in, like religious kind of Easter eggs put in throughout the film. That like
Okay.
do they have like a direct significance to the plot itself? I mean, yes and no. It's just kind of like nice little imagery to put in throughout the movie to touch on that kind of stuff.
And it worked.
Yeah, yeah.
It really worked. Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your experiences writing this and directing it. For our viewers, again, the movie's called Devil's Workshop. He's being released in theaters and video on demand in 2 days, Friday,
Yep.
September 30th. So go check it out. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's scary, it's creepy, it's a little bit of everything. You have any final thoughts you want to share before we go, Chris?
Uh, No, yeah, I just hope that people like I hope that people are able to find that satire in the movie because I certainly think it's there, and I think
Yeah,
and you know it's a horror film for sure, but I think I hope that the people find more than that, and
yeah.
not to sound like I don't want to sound pretentious about it. It is a horror film, but like I just hope that they find a little bit more than that in the film.
There's more to it than just a horror film. I
Yeah,
totally understand what you're saying. I want to thank our audience, those of you who are tuning in live, and those of you who'll be watching this later on. Again, thank you to our guest, Chris Van Hoffman. On behalf of Chris and myself, stay safe and stay walking. Good night, guys.
cool. Thank you.